Good afternoon, Dunkirk and Fredonia listeners, and welcome back to News at Noon. I am Fredonia Radio System's News Director Cascio Fonseca here today with news assistants Lee Pye and Joshua Ribakove. And in this top of the hour update, we'll bring you the latest on news and events around SUNY Fredonia's campus and community, as well as the latest in national news and weather. First up, we'll bring it to Lee for our latest campus news updates.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lee Pye, reporting the campus news. After publishing her book in December 2022, SUNY Fredonia professor Christina Jarvis has been very busy promoting her book, Lucky Mud and Other FOMA, a field guide to Kurt Vonnegut's environmentalism and planetary citizenship. Since it was published, Dr. Jarvis has seen a domino effect of interest for her book, podcasts to interviews and community events to guest starring on award-winning national radio show, The Roundtable. More recently, she had an interview with Chuck Aguelo, which was published in the Daily Vonnegut on February 14th. From the Daily Vonnegut, the interview says, quote, Vonnegut addressed myriad social and environmental problems from pollution, racial and economic injustice, and war to dehumanizing technologies and ecological collapse, end quote. For upcoming events, Kyle Van Schuoven, a Williams visiting professor and tenor, and Sarah Cambidge, soprano, will present a concert with pianist Anne Cazell on Thursday, March 9th from 8 p.m. to 7 p.m., Mason Hall, Roche Recital Hall. Kyle will also give another public masterclass on March 28th from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. in the same place. Yet another exhibit at Rockefeller Marion Art Gallery will be presenting the display Miscommunication, Language and Power in the Contemporary Art. The exhibit will be here from Thursday, March 9th to at least Friday, March 17th. Thursday or tomorrow will be open from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Friday and Saturday will be open from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. and Sunday will be open from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Lastly, spring break is here. SUNY Fredonia will not have class next week from Monday, March 12th to Friday, March 17th. School will be back in session Monday, March 20th.
Thanks, Lee. Next up, we'll take it to local news. And in local news for this week, after a few days of further investigation, it has been determined that Fredonia's boil water order last week originated from equipment malfunctions as opposed to human error. This assertion comes from village officials from the latest Board of Trustees meeting on Monday. Fredonia Mayor Douglas Essick asked the chief operator at the village water treatment plant, Louis Fred, to explain what happened. Quote, Friday, February 24th, we noticed there was a trend of chlorine going down. We tried to stay on top of it and adjust it as it was losing. Toward the end of the night, we realized the pump was failing. I called the senior operator, he came down to help out, and I also called the previous chief operator. Together, they corrected the situation and pretty much put a Band-Aid on it, and we were able to get adequate chlorine back into the system. However, Saturday, February 25th, somehow the pump failed and we didn't have chlorine. So then Sunday is when we realized that there was no residual in the water, and I called the county health department and the mayor, and we had to do a boil order, end quote. Parts for a new pump have arrived in Fredonia and construction is underway, with a backup pump being used for the time being. Quote, people wondered why the boil water order was such a long amount of time, even though it may have been fixed already. But it takes a while for the water to get in through the entire system, end quote, said Fredonia trustee James Linden. Louis Fred added that there had to be 6 tests taken on February 27th and February 28th to make sure the system was clear of any contaminants. Linden noted tests were done not only at the plant, but throughout the village of Fredonia as well. Currently, the situation is stable. Louis has things under control, said Mayor Douglas Essick. Fredonia's boil water order lasted from February 26th until March 1st. That's all for local news for today. Next, we'll take it to Josh for national news.
Good afternoon, folks. I'm Joshua Ribakove with today's international news. 2 of the 4 Americans have been recovered from last Friday's kidnapping at the border to Mexico. Last week, the 4 were driving a white minivan and had crossed the border from Texas when they were ambushed at the Mexican city of Tamaulipas. According to a relative of one of the victims, the quartet had been traveling together to accompany one of the group's members for their tummy tuck surgery in the border city of Matamoros. They had been ambushed by gunfire from a drug cartel before the criminals kidnapped them and drove off, the 4 people captive in another vehicle. According to Governor Americo Villarreal of Tamaulipas, the kidnappers had moved the Americans through several locations in order to create confusion and foil attempts to rescue them. Ultimately, the Mexican military located them being held in a wooden shack close to the Gulf Coast. 2 of the group survived and have since been recovered, including Latavia Washington McGee and Eric James Williams. Unfortunately, the remains of the other 2 people are yet to be repatriated, but the military has caught and arrested a 24-year-old man found guarding the wooden shack. Do you think you could keep your cool if you had to stop a terrorist on a plane? Well, that's exactly what happened to passenger Samik Gukasian on a flight from Los Angeles to Boston this Sunday. When a passenger had been caught tampering with the emergency exit on United Airlines Flight 2609, things got ugly. The 33-year-old man, named Francisco Severo Torres, allegedly approached 2 flight attendants and attempted to stab them with a broken spoon. However, when Samik saw the spoon, he was one of several passengers that piled onto the offending man, restraining him. Gukasian works as an airborne electronics technician contracted by NASA, and in an interview with the Associated Press, Samik stated that he has training in first aid and counterterrorism. After having asked a flight attendant for zip ties, Samik Gukasian was able to successfully disable Torres until the flight reached Boston under an hour later. Torres has been charged with interference and attempted interference with flight crew members and attendants using a dangerous weapon, and, if convicted, he could face life in prison. On Monday, Elon Musk argued with one of the employees that he had recently laid off, publicly calling out the employee's disability. The ex-employee, Haraldur Thorleifsson, had tried to log into his work computer the previous Sunday, only to find that him and 200 other employees had been locked out. After 9 days without any word from management, Thorleifsson, who goes by the nickname Hallie, tweeted out, quote, "Maybe if enough people retweet, you'll answer me here?" End quote. When Elon replied, he questioned Hallie on what he did for Twitter and his need for workplace accommodations. For context, Hallie suffers muscular dystrophy, and it makes some typing tasks difficult. Thorleifsson tweeted back about how he became an employee of Twitter when the company he originally worked for became acquired by them, as well as the things that he has done for Twitter since. Elon Musk is now facing backlash for his response. Quote, "The reality is that this guy, who is independently wealthy, did no actual work, claimed as his excuse that he had a disability that prevented him from typing, yet was simultaneously tweeting up a storm. Can't say I have a lot of respect for that." End quote. Eventually, the problem became sorted out after Musk actually had a video call with Hallie. Musk publicly tweeted his apology late yesterday afternoon and claims that he had heard things that were either not true or things that were true but not meaningful. Either way, it seems Elon has learned a valuable lesson about communication and starting flame wars on Twitter. And with that, I am now passing it on to weather with Lee Pye.
The Northern Chautauqua Weather Update, being brought to you by Fredonia Radio Systems.
Thanks, Josh. The weather today is 33 degrees Fahrenheit. The low is 26 degrees and the high is 34 degrees. It feels like 26, but it's very sunny, so wear your winter coats and your summer sunglasses. This is Lee Pye.
Thank you, Lee and Josh. That'll wrap it up for this Wednesday's edition of News at Noon. Local news for this broadcast was prepared and read by Cascio Fonseca. National news was prepared and read by Joshua Ribakove, while campus news and weather were prepared and read by Lee Pye. Board operation for this broadcast was performed by Alex Erwin. Join us on Friday for more top-of-the-hour news updates on High Noon Friday. Till then, take care.